Hey, hello everyone. Happy Thursday and happy first of the month. Welcome to this week's Ask FEW Anything from Malaysia. I am your host, Coco Wong. I'm the ambassador for female entrepreneur worldwide, Malaysia, and I will be exploring different areas of a female entrepreneur's journey each month with you. So please join our community so that you get our updates all the time. Okay, so today's topic, I don't know whether you will agree or not, but some people say a woman's greatest enemy is the lack of time to herself. And I certainly agree with that 200%. Years of research have concluded that women disproportionately bear the brunt of unpaid labor in the household, cooking, cleaning, childcare, you name it. And this certainly resonates with me. And the lack of time actually limits a woman's career options and even her lifestyle, right? And if this hits home for you, we've got just the thing for you today, because we have invited a very special guest with us today, Michelle Ann Eiking. And Michelle is on a mission to empower people who want to be best versions of themselves today, and she will help them realize their dreams and visions for a better tomorrow. As the Chief People Officer at Self-Driven, a company that specializes in helping motivate and empower employees, Michelle has the cutting-edge insights into helping others reach their potentials. And she is here today to give us some directions to help you and me reach ours too. So before we start, if you have any questions regarding today's topic, please feel free to ask away in the comment section and we'll get to them throughout this live stream. So Michelle, welcome and thank you so much for agreeing to be here with us today. So why don't you start by telling us something about yourself and what you do?
Hello, thank you so much, Coco, for that wonderful introduction. A little bit of a hiccup, but this is what women do best, right? We kind of survive under pressure and try to carry on and soldier on. I'm very glad to be here to talk about this topic, and I know we don't have much time, so I'm going to go straight into this bit about introducing myself. Here we go. And just let me know when everybody can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Great. So who am I? I am first and foremost a wife and a mother. And the reason why that's very, very important to me is because I was actually told by 3 different doctors that I only had a 3% chance of natural conception, before I had my 2 children. So they're both, my daughter's 4 years old now and my son's 4 months old. And although the first one had a little bit of help, the second baby was completely natural in terms of conception. So it's a very big deal for me that I'm able to be a wife and a mother. Unless you think that I have a picture perfect life. No, that's not the case. This is literally the messy life that I have right now. This is my 4-month-old baby, Kian. And this is kind of literally what my desk looks like on a normal basis because I'm working from home and we don't have live-in help, and I've opted not to send him out anywhere else, obviously, while the pandemic is going strong. So as mentioned by Coco, my mission is to optimize human potential. And I know that sounds really lofty and big, but really the last 10 years of my career before the current role that I have right now have been spent in the world of talent and learning and development. In fact, the team won a HR award for some learning and development initiatives that we ran in my previous workplace at Citibank. And how I was privileged enough to be invited to this setting was because Christelle, one of the members of this wonderful group, has volunteered with another organization that seeks to serve youth. And that opportunity came because I was speaking at the recent Obama Foundation Leaders Asia Pacific convening. I was the only Malaysian facilitator for that. So that was a fabulous opportunity. And it's led me to this opportunity with all of you today. Spending this time with you is very, very important to me because empowering females, enabling, educating them is very close to my heart. I'm an industry mentor, and I've I think, been mentoring ladies in the Lean in Malaysia cohort for 3 to 4 years now. And so now I'm Chief People Officer of Self-Driven. It is a startup. So although I'm not an entrepreneur myself, I'm one of the very few senior management teams in a very lean startup. And so short of taking out money from my own pocket and paying people's salaries, I absolutely know the pressures of what an entrepreneurial lifestyle is like. And I think the best way for me to give you some additional context into who I am and how I might understand some of the pressures that you guys go through as entrepreneurs, ladies go through as entrepreneurs, is to show you a very quick 2-minute video of what we do rather than me verbalize. So if you'll allow me to do that, let me just play this video. So what I might do is just go back to the introduction for myself. That's my baby. I thought it was important, Coco, if you'll allow me to kind of talk about the genesis for this topic, if that's okay.
Of course, sure.
Sure. Okay, and for some reason, it is just not my day today, because now I can't seem to, here we go. Now I can't seem to work this slide. Okay. We should be able to do this now. Okay, so can everyone still see my slides?
Yep.
Yeah. So I thought it was important to sort of indicate to you why it was very important to me to discuss this topic and see if it resonated with any of you. There was an article actually with exactly the same name of this title, the greatest enemy for women was the lack of time. It was a Guardian article. And the main points raised in the article were that you have great male philosophers and artists and writers, and it seems like there's so few women artists and writers and creators out there. And the article posits that really it's not the fact that we women don't have the talent, it's just that we've never had the time. And if the act of creation needs long stretches of time alone, and that's not something women can do, then we're shortchanging ourselves and the world really by not allowing ourselves and giving ourselves this time. Throughout history, it's only really the men, the high status men, who've had that ability to choose to control their time. Whereas women, we're the ones, we're the enablers, right? Who allow them to think their great thoughts and create that great output. And so, one of the things that I think that cause this is the fact that we have motherhood guilt. I think, hands up, a yay or on the chat perhaps, and Coco, you'll tell me if there's any yays. Anyone who feels guilty about taking time for yourself. In fact, when I shared the article with a lot of women that I knew, some of the language that they used around, oh my God, yes, I feel like I stole 2 hours yesterday to do something for myself. And I said, listen to the language you're using. Steal. Who are you stealing from when you take an hour for yourself? Who are you stealing from? And I think really in addressing this motherhood guilt, this visual really is very pertinent to me, and I'm not sure if it resonates with you guys, but when we're on a plane, we're always told, put the oxygen mask, if necessary, on yourself before the child or anyone that's dependent on you. And I really think that is the thing that helps me deal with motherhood guilt. I know that life is a marathon, and that if I don't put an oxygen mask on myself in the ways that I'll explain to you later on, and I'll be answering Coco's questions, that ultimately I'm going to suffer, and the people that are dependent on me, including my family, are going to suffer ultimately. So
yeah.
Hopefully, at the end of this session,
we've got quite a lot of people who are wanting to ask questions. So
Absolutely.
rather than carrying on, should we go straight into answering the questions, and maybe you could include some of your slides, that the messages in there to help us?
Absolutely, sure. Please go ahead. I'm curious to hear all the questions.
So we've got someone here to dial in and talk to us face to face, and we've got Evelyn here. So please, Evelyn, so she can ask away.
Sure. Hello, Evelyn.
Hi, Michelle. Hi, Coco. Hi, everyone on the call, on the stream. Yeah. So I think what you just said, Michelle, definitely resonates. The sort of mommy guilt. I had that as a working mom, in corporate, and then now sort of starting my own business. My kids are slightly older, so I don't have as much mommy guilt because they don't want anything to do with me anyway, most of the time, unless they're asking for something. But one of the things that I find, is I still have to take care of the household and take care of them to some degree. And the struggle that I have is that my husband is also running his own business, and so he says, well, you have to take care of more of the household stuff and the family stuff, and because his business is established, if he takes time out of his business to spend time with the household stuff, which he's happy to do, then that affects income. My income isn't that established yet, so the struggle is actually between me and my husband and taking time away from his business to put into my business. And I'm not sure whether you've experienced the same thing, or other people who've experienced that.
Right. So this is a obviously a very common problem. I might refer to a couple of visuals, and the essence is that my husband and I, we both work, we both have careers. I do believe there are some slight differences in that, there is perhaps a disparity between the income, and that is causing, a weightage on your husband. Like, he wins because his business is making more. And I think that's got to be a discussion about the timing then of when to focus on each partner. If I may just in terms of how I do it, it is about making sure that the partnership is a true partnership. And so the assumption is not that the woman is the only one who is capable of doing, the looking after the child. And so my husband is able to do that, and he makes his little mistakes with the hair and stuff, but you let those things go, and this visual is really just to indicate with the fish of him acquiring the new skills. But I think it's important, I guess, to come to, so these are just some of the things that he does for our child, but in answering your particular concern about does it have to be me that has to be the one to sacrifice all the time, I guess my question back to you is, how often do you calibrate your shared life with your partner as to what the end goal will be for both of you? Does it make sense?
Yeah, it definitely does. And I think, we had a pretty good rhythm going when we were living in Singapore. We just moved to New Zealand in January this year. So I think finding our balance, is a bit challenging now, because obviously we have no family, we have no help at home. So that's why the burden on me has become, more intense.
Right.
So yeah, but we have sort of regular, sort of sit downs, and he knows when I'm really stretched, he will sort of take care of things. But I it's still going to be the lion's share, right? I'm still taking the lion's share of all of it, and it's a difficult conversation to have, like on a regular basis.
I would suggest, and I'm so sorry then that I didn't think to do this a visual of this drawing, a very messy drawing that I had done with my husband, where we discussed our life together, and we kind of drew out on a piece of paper what our expectations were for the life we had together, and what that would what that would require from us over the long term, and what that would require from me, and what that would require from him. So it was a very messy piece of paper because we drew over it, and then there was a lot of negotiation going on. But certainly on our end, we managed to find, if I may, kind of a commonality in terms of what we wanted for our family. So that, have a family, we want to be able to travel, create memories together, obviously have enough money for us to live a decent life, educate the kids, have some level of flexibility, and somehow still be able to serve the community in some way. But I think visually, that's what's helped us, visually knowing what the end in mind is for both of you and your whole family. And then consciously saying, well, okay, this is obviously maybe a 10, 20, 30 year objective, right? This overall big picture. And so if your business needs to be the priority right now, what is fair in terms of putting, say, 100% focus on your business versus 0 on mine? Or should the ratio, is it 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, or can the ratio be 80, 20, 50, 50 for the next 2 years? Really being very specific about what the end in mind is for you. I'm not sure if that's helpful.
Yeah, it is. Thank you. Yeah, that's the balancing act that we haven't quite done yet, but thank you.
Thank you for the question. It's a very valid question. Coco, did you have was there a next question?
Okay, so we've got lots of questions. The next one is from Carmen about changing habits. How do we work smarter instead of harder?
Okay. I might use this particular piece which I've prepared because it's been a game changer for me in terms of how I try to work smarter. Sorry, that's just... and it's a concept of not necessarily working hard, but working smart, because I'm trying to manage not necessarily time, but managing my energy. And so that I'm devoting the right kind of, I'm applying the task or doing the task according to the energy level that I have. So just very quickly, what I mean by managing your energy is there are 4 types of energy that we experience at any one point in time, and you probably recognize this. The first type of energy is very low mental requirement. It's the habit energy when you're brushing your teeth or kind of waiting for a lift. And the tip there is, if that's your energy level, assign a task that doesn't need the brain work. So, but you can still be productive, so to speak, by perhaps when you're waiting for a lift, deleting unwanted phone pictures off your phone while you're waiting, or at the doctor's office. That might be a good use of habit energy if you're in that state.
Right.
Where if you're in the state of energy of being the audience energy, and this is sort of like, when you're watching TV and you're not really actively thinking, you're kind of zoning out. This might be a good time to arrange for cleaners to come in, outsource some of that work with affordable cleaners, and you monitor, but not necessarily have to do so much brain work yourself. And when your energy is a little bit higher and you're in the engagement stage of energy and you're able to use your brain, that's really the best time to schedule the me time that you're able to give yourself once you've got over the motherhood guilt. It's things that maybe are not necessarily urgent, but that are important. If you want to acquire a new skill or focus a little bit of energy in your business, do those tasks related to those when you have engagement energy. And of course, the highest level of energy is contemplative energy, when we're talking about being in the zone. And this time differs for everybody. For me, for example, it's 3 a.m. when the kids have gone to bed. I've gone to sleep at 10 o'clock, for example. I'm not spending time on TV per se. I've gone to bed with my 4-month-old, got in a good, decent number of hours, and maybe I'll wake up at 3:30, 4 a.m. when the house is completely quiet. And that's when I'm in my contemplative energy and I can do my best strategizing work. So for me, this is a sort of a tip of working smarter with my energy as opposed to, very hard with the limited time that we have. And I'm not sure if that's helpful for you.
Right, that's certainly very helpful, and that resonates with me. I also work at night when it's all quiet, but then I have to sacrifice my sleep with it.
So,
Okay.
yeah, that's what I meant about you kind of choose, you prioritize what parts of the day. So as I said, for me personally, I don't watch very much TV because it doesn't add value to my life, and I choose sleep over TV so that I can do other things. But we do have to give that give and take.
Yeah. Okay. So this is another question sent in by Tech Chin. I kept hearing women empowering women. Yet what to do when I'm surrounded with women in life who just keep complaining about their lives and how difficult it is in their life and so on. Worst case is whenever we respond, they will just ignore and jump to another topic or another person and start their issue again. Is this one of the reasons women not able to give themselves their own time while in dilemma of empowering others?
That's a very and as it so happens, my next slide was really still on the topic of energy.
Vampires,
right? So the people that you're talking about certainly sound like energy vampires, the ones who kind of bring you down with their negativity. If obviously the easy thing is to run away, to try and avoid them as much as possible. But in many instances you can't, right? Because they are people in your immediate circle, like they could be family members that you can't necessarily leave. And so some of the tactics that have worked for me in dealing with those is to try and get these people to focus rather than to stay in that sort of negative zone. And it's generally not helpful to say, stop being so negative, because people are not receptive to you saying stop being so negative. Getting them, lifting their tone by asking them, so what do you want instead? What is it you want? And constantly just bringing them up to that level of thing. What is it you want? What is it you want? And if that person is capable of being helped, they will with practice go with that thinking of, okay, yeah, well, I want this. I want my husband to do this, and I want, this and this and that. And asking them, so what can be done about that? What can be done? How do you get closer to what you want, rather than letting them stay down here and sort of wallowing? It's very difficult. I would agree. It takes a lot of your own self-patience and discipline to kind of stay your frequency being on the positive when people want to drag you down. Sometimes to help me understand certain individuals, I also reframe and have a visual in my mind that nobody wakes up in the morning wanting to be an energy vampire or someone that makes your life difficult. But there are things that have happened to them in their life that have traumatized them. And so sometimes I have to visualize that somebody is a wounded person, and they're wrapped in bandages that we can't quite see. And sometimes that helps me to be a little bit kinder to them, and kinder to myself as well. But obviously, these are some tactics that you can try, but if you can, disassociate yourself from energy vampires, that's obviously easiest things to do.
That's a great tip. Okay, so another question from Lee Xiang Lim. What is your method of prioritizing what is important to you? I find that my problem is having to divide my attention in so many directions is that I lose the sense of what is really important.
Okay, so great that I have a slide for that. How many of you, again, it's the concept of beginning with the end in mind, and how many of you are familiar with that whole Professor Jar analogy?
Yep.
You might recognize it, right? So
yeah.
So it's really, I think, if most people are familiar about it, I think it's really keeping in mind what is the most important, and ensuring that you're not sacrificing the big rocks in favor of the small little things. I do know what you mean about feeling like you're pulled in many different directions. And sometimes I feel that is self-inflicted. So let me just share you a personal story. It was a kind of a breakthrough moment for me. I sat down with an executive coach that I worked with in a previous life, and she was asking me how I was, and the description that I gave to her was, I feel like I'm one of those plate spinners, and there are lots of different plates, and I'm everywhere, and I'm going to drop one of these plates, and things going to go crashing down, and I need to do this, and I need to do that, and I need to do this. And she stopped me. She stopped me and she said, "Michelle, you're so needy." And I was very offended, to be honest, because I consider myself fairly strong and empowered and all the rest of it. I've never been told I'm needy. And so, but I tried to, take a deep breath and ask, be cool. And I asked her, "Why do you say I'm needy?" And she said, "Well, in the last 5 minutes, you've said the phrase, 'I need to,' 7 times. And that really caught me by surprise. And then she asked me, 'Where do you think this comes from?' And I knew immediately. I mean, it was, I started bursting into tears, to be a bit vulnerable here, but I burst into tears because suddenly in that moment it hit me that the need for me to be this perfect, always on person derived from the fact that my father, my late father, who's since passed on, raised us with this mantra of average is mediocrity, and only excellence is acceptable. And so I realized that certainly for me, I was sabotaging myself, because the next question that the coach asked me was, how does it serve you to be compelled to meet these standards? How does it serve you? And on the one hand, it did serve me in that it propelled me so-called towards excellence because I want to achieve. But on the other hand, if I'm constantly feeling guilty and I feel terrible about myself and I'm not getting enough sleep because I'm trying to achieve all these things, ultimately, obviously, I'm not being served. And going back to the airplane analogy, I'm not serving the people who love me and who I love as well. So certainly, I think for me, it's creating a little bit of space for yourself to reflect on what exactly is driving you and whether that's truly important at the end of the day.
Right. Yeah, that's great insight. Thank you. So the next one is, a lot of entrepreneurs are busy, but busy is not always productive. How do I make sure that my productivity is maximized? That is certainly true. We're busy with nothing sometimes.
And so, yeah, like as I mentioned, like the previous slide which you saw, really keeping in mind what is important to you overall in your life, and making sure that you put sufficient energy towards that. So another simple, I think, audit question that we have, and this one I learned from another female role model in my life. She said that, so she was doing a job, and she was the head of HR, of which looking after talent was one of the pillars. But for her, it was the main pillar. So she said, that's the most important pillar for me. That's really my priority. And yet when she audited herself and sort of did a check how many hours in a week she spent towards that stated priority, it was only 15% of her time. And I think that's why getting the data to see where your time goes and see whether it aligns with your values is really important, because then if you spend the bulk of your energy on things that truly matter to you, you will feel more in control of your life than if you simply allowed the day to just fritter. And if I may, just because I think many people are very visual people, one aspect of this for me, and it's a phrase I've taken from Michelle Obama, is this concept of planning for joy. Because your question was about, how can I be productive? Well, productive is a very subjective term. Like it really depends on what you want to achieve, productive towards what end, and whose future? Is it your boss's future, or someone else external to you, or is it your future? And really, as women, we need to take control of the future that we want for ourselves, because if we're not the ones planning our time, then we're just going to be, someone else is going to do that. And most likely they're going to have us devote time on things that we feel are a waste of time. And this little picture here is just, I don't know. I told you earlier that I don't watch a lot of TV. I made an exception recently. While I was folding my laundry, I had on, I don't know if you guys watch Netflix, there's a latest show called The Home Edit. And I had it on in the background because I was multitasking. Had it on the background so I could be inspired to keep my house clean while, it's a home makeover organization show, and I was folding my clothes. And one particular episode really resonated with me because there was an episode in which the woman had bought a skirt when she was 30 years old. And she told herself, when I am 40, I will wear this skirt to Paris. And literally that episode was her 10 years later, having done that, gone to Paris with the skirt, and part of the decluttering exercise was she didn't want to let go of that skirt. She said this has sentimental value. And what they did very nicely was they actually framed that skirt and put it as part of, her closet in a special place. And for me, that sort of epitomizes what we should be doing with our lives. Yes, the aim is to be productive, but to what goal at the end of the day for your family as well as for you?
Right. Okay. I think that's really a good tip for everyone to remember. We should be planning for ourselves rather than everyone else's as well. But thank you. That's really lovely. Okay. So this one is actually very now. From Amy with the increase of connectivity. How do we switch off from work? Customers seem to expect our attention 24/7.
Okay, and for this, I will really go back to that airplane analogy of looking after yourself first. And just yesterday, this is so topical, but our partners in the business, we're Microsoft partners, and Microsoft have recently done research on the effects of remote working in the 6 months since the pandemic has really broken down, and a lot of people initially the interesting finding that I was really blown away by was the commute is no longer existing for a lot of people working from home, right? So we're saving that commute time. I love the fact that I don't have to put on a full face of makeup all the time. But what the research is saying is not having the commute is really affecting productivity in the long term because we are no longer having that ramp down period when we're commuting home to kind of detach from the day and start the mental rejuvenation in order to sustain ourselves to come back and fight another day. We don't have that, and that's starting to affect people's productivity because the long-term strain and exhaustion to the brain. Similarly, the coming into work in the morning with the normal commute, if you use it right, you can use it to ramp up your day. So, I mean, the question initially was, how do I'm always on, and customers expect to always be on. And I think it's incumbent upon us, again, with that airplane analogy, to make a conscious decision. I'm not going to be my best if I am constantly on. And so I'm running a marathon. We are all in a marathon together, and we need to be able to sustain ourselves and be smart about it. It's no point getting burnt out. And just on the topic of marathons, I just want to share this wonderful insight I had yesterday with a gentleman who is a triathlete, but he's also a mindfulness expert or practitioner. So what he says is, people poo-poo like the 2 minutes of so-called mindfulness exercises that sometimes people recommend you do, but he described it such when he's running the marathon portion of his triathlon, and he's already done early morning, he's done the swim, and then it's the bike, and now he's doing the run, and it's usually high noon. It's really, really hot. So for him as a triathlete doing the marathon, they will look for the as much shade as possible as they're running the 42 kilometers in the last stretch, because even the 30 seconds of shade as they're running the 42 kilometers, it helps. And so that's really what I want us to think of as women in this marathon of life. Every little bit of respite, of rest that you give yourself helps you in the long run for sustainability and effectiveness.
Okay, lots of golden nuggets today. Okay, so how do you know when what you're doing is the best use of your time?
How do I know what I'm doing is the best use of my time? I guess I go back to you know, what my goals are for myself. So, for example, it might be that at 6 o'clock when my daughter comes home from daycare and school, luckily they've been able to go back to school now. In the last 2 months, she was still at home and homeschooling, which was a bit of a nightmare for I think a lot of parents. But you know, I'm often torn because I haven't quite finished that report, for example. And I in the past I would get stressed because I'd be like, oh my God, my daughter's back. There's no way that I'm going to be able to do that now, and it's just going to be all terrible. But then I guess I think back to what is the end goal that I have for my life, and submitting a report is not in this picture, obviously, that I'm sharing with you. And my daughter's 4 right now. She is her constant question to her father is Mama done with work? You know, and that's not necessarily, again, that's not in this picture. So I also recognize that I have deliverables at work. So what I've done is I've made a conscious partition, I suppose, in my mind that I'm going to spend in a week quality 2 hours with her. So it's being, again, very intentional with my time. If I can't spend every weekday night with her on quality time, what I've said is I'm going to spend a solid hour playing. And that's, you know, it's not talking, it's not telling her to do, nagging her to do something, actually sitting down with her and playing with whatever she wants to play with for a solid hour. And I'm going to do it twice a week. It's going to be on Saturday, it's going to be on Sunday. And the outcome that I want, so there's an outcome, it's not just a task-based thing of ticking off the boxes. I've spent, you know, 26 hours with her over the weekend between October to December. The outcome that I want, that I've set for myself, and I've actually put this on my LinkedIn, so I've publicly committed to this, is that after I've spent these 26 hours of weekends between now and December, my daughter should be able to recall with joy at least 10 of them. So then I've really got to put myself out there and make sure that the time that I commit to her is going to be impactful enough that she'll remember it, even though she's 4 years old. So I think being, in short, it's really being very intentional about the outcomes you want for yourself, your family, and your life at the end of the day. I don't know if that's sort of answered your question.
Yeah, I think it has. Okay, so we've only got 4 minutes left, unfortunately. I know a lot of people still have a lot of questions, but if there's one tip that you want to give us to end this on how to time manage, what would that be?
Well, we've only got 4 minutes, haven't we? So what I might do is quickly flash. Thankfully, I have this. This is, you know, it's more than one, but you can read for yourself some very simple productivity hints to kind of summarize everything that we've discussed today. But I think the statement on the right really truly encapsulates it, or at least my philosophy. Live every day with intention. So make a conscious decision about what it is you ultimately want and own that decision. You know, take the consequences that go with it, and then don't apologize for it. You've made a particular choice. Go for it, own it, and be grateful that you had the opportunity to make that choice.
Thank you so much, and so much to take away today from this short interview. But I'm sure that is really helpful to a lot of us as female entrepreneurs and as mothers, and just constantly struggling between tasks and things that we have in life. But if you have more questions for Michelle, please do send them through in the comments below. We will try and get them answered as much as we can. And don't forget to join our community with the link below to help get up to date with all the upcoming events. So thank you, Michelle, once again for joining us. It was really, really very, very useful and so So many great tips. So now I have to read. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me and for spending the time with me. It's been a pleasure, connecting with you all, and again, remembering that I'm not alone in many of these dilemmas and challenges, and that we're all sort of in this together and finding a better way. So thank you again, and have a great remainder of the week.
Yes, you too. And thank you everyone for tuning in and joining us today, and then see you next time. Yep. Bye-bye.